United Nations Secretary General Kofi Annan held a special meeting with the 5 permanent members of the Security Council. And when it ended, spokesman Fred Eckert said the members had agreed to push for a diplomatic end to that crisis with Iraq.
The participants in the meeting agreed that all efforts must continue to achieve a diplomatic solution aimed at full implementation by the government of Iraq of the resolutions of the Council.
Fred Eckert speaks for the United Nations. Meantime, the U.S. Senate may vote as early as today on a resolution backing military action.
Marcia Lewis, Monica Lewinsky's mother, is due back in federal court to resume her testimony before a federal grand jury investigating allegations of a sexual relationship between Lewinsky and the president. She cut short testimony yesterday because she wasn't feeling well, but says that she plans to make a statement when the testimony is complete. Her attorney, Billy Martin, spoke with reporters right outside of the courtroom.
Marcia Lewis asked me to come out to share with you that she will not be making a statement today. She does promise the press that she will make a statement when she concludes her grand jury testimony. She has not done that, and she will not come out until she's concluded. She will take no questions today, and I thank you.
The White House is not commenting on reported claims by former uniformed Secret Service agent Louis Fox that he saw President Clinton with Monica Lewinsky in the Oval Office. Press Secretary Mike McCurry says uniformed agents usually don't guard the Oval Office.
General practice is, you all see it all the time when you're up here. You've got agents posted outside the door, and the uniformed division folks redeploy elsewhere when the president's in the Oval.
The ranking Democrat on the House Judiciary Committee wants a newspaper publisher to provide information on the special prosecutor Kenneth Starr. UPI's Jim Burns reports.
Michigan Democrat John Conyers has sent a letter to Richard Mellon Scaife of the Scaife Foundation in Pittsburgh. At a Capitol Hill news conference, Conyers says he wants to determine the relationship between Scaife and Kenneth Starr.
He has a relationship that we're trying to determine through the questions that I've asked of what his relationship is to the person who has been appointed to determine whether the president will stand trial.
Conyers called on Scaife to promptly respond in order to lift the cloud of impropriety that Conyers says is plaguing Starr's operation. Jim Burns, Capitol Hill.
President Clinton is urging the Senate to endorse expansion of NATO to include Poland, Hungary, and the Czech Republic.
These 3 states will add some 200,000 troops to the alliance. A larger NATO will be a better deterrent against aggressors of the future. It will deepen the ranks of those who stand with us should deterrence fail.
UPI's Pi Chamberlain reports that the Senate Finance Committee heard from women hounded by the Internal Revenue Service because of tax claims that were against their husbands.
The law today makes either spouse liable in full for taxes owed if a joint return was filed. Elizabeth Cockrell of New York says that she discovered long after her divorce that her ex-husband had left her apparently owing a fortune in taxes.
Today the IRS wants to collect $650,000. It's actually up to $680,000 today from me for my ex-husband's tax avoidance schemes.
She said she had nothing to do with her husband's complex financial deals. Her testimony was part of a foundation for new law Congress is trying to write to protect people from the tax liabilities of those to whom they're married. Pi Chamberlain, Capitol Hill.
It's almost 20 minutes past the hour. Police are considering whether to file charges against a mother after her 4-year-old son allegedly shot and killed his 7-year-old brother with a handgun he found in the house. This is in Flower Bluff, Texas. Charles Lee died Wednesday when his little brother began playing with a gun and shot him in the face.
One person was killed in a plane crash in Morgan Hill, California, just south of San Jose. Reporter Derek Villa says that a National Guard helicopter and a small private plane collided in that area.
2 aircraft collided near the Anderson Reservoir, which is about 30 miles southeast of San Jose. The collision involved a military helicopter and a Beechcraft Bonanza airplane.
That's reporter Derek Villa.
2 brokers from the Chicago Mercantile Exchange told a Texas jury a 1996 Oprah Winfrey show about mad cow disease had a, quote, devastating effect on the beef market. Both men say the show was the chief topic of conversation on the floor of the exchange for more than a week.
A major TV star and his wife have been honored by a national cable channel as the Valentine Day nears. UPI's Dennis Daly has a report.
Romance Classics, the cable network that is an offshoot of American Movie Classics, has named Tonight Show host Jay Leno and his wife Mavis as America's most romantic couple. The network says it judged couples on the basis of longevity, dedication, devotion, and prospects for a future together. The Lenos have been married for 18 years, but they've been together for 22. Leno first noticed her when she was in the audience at one of his concerts at the Comedy Store in Los Angeles. Dennis Daly, Los Angeles.
21 Pass, the largest environmental survey ever conducted along Southern California's coast, has found fish and other marine life are in generally good condition. That's despite low-level contamination all over the ocean floor. You're listening to the UPI Morning News. "22 past the hour, time for a look at financial news, and the leading U.S. business software company has made a hostile bid for a major computer services company. We get details from UPI's Ed Silk.
Computer Associates International has made a $9 billion unsolicited offer to acquire California-based Computer Sciences. Computer Associates is offering $108 per share in cash to Computer Sciences stockholders. Computer Associates develops, markets, and supports business software. It offers more than 500 products with applications in enterprise computing and information management, manufacturing, and finance. Computer Sciences provides a variety of management consulting, systems development, and other information technology services. Its clients include the federal government, in addition to companies in the U.S. and abroad. The post-merger company would employ over 50,000 workers and have annual revenues of about $11 billion. I'm Ed Silk.
Canadian National Railway has agreed to acquire Illinois Central in a $2.4 billion cash and stock deal. The Canadian National will also assume about $560 million in Illinois Central debt. Canadian National is Canada's largest and only transcontinental railway. After the merger, it will become the fifth largest railway in North America, based on 1997 annual revenues of $3.7 billion.
23 past the hour, Mattel reportedly aims to double international sales over the next 5 years as part of a worldwide growth strategy. The Wall Street Journal reports Mattel chairman and CEO Jill Barrett has indicated the strategy includes producing toys for international markets. It adds Mattel will also focus on international sales and tie bonuses to international growth targets.
An international consortium of more than 30 telecommunications carriers has signed a construction and maintenance agreement to build a new fiber optic undersea cable system. The Columbus 3 cable system will be linking southern Europe and the United States, spanning 10,000 kilometers and costing an estimated $236 million. The consortium includes AT&T, MCI, and Telecom Italia.
Well, it's probably no surprise, but American households reportedly have more of their assets invested in the stock market than at any time in the past 50 years. The New York Times says an analysis of Federal Reserve data reveals stock investments made up 28% of American wealth at the end of September. It says the same analysis showed stocks accounted for 43% of household financial assets.
And President Clinton has honored Levi Strauss and IBM with the first annual Ron Brown Award for Corporate Leadership. The award recognizes companies that have demonstrated a sustained and passionate commitment to employee and community relations. The award is named for the former Commerce Secretary Ron Brown. He was killed on April of 1996 in a plane crash while on a trade mission to Bosnia. That's a look at financial news this morning. Good morning. Happy Thursday, everybody. 25 past the hour now. Dimitri Sotis and Shirley Smith on the UPI Morning News.
Well, you really sort of a sing-song there, kind of a
UPI. Yeah. Thought I'd give it a little extra oomph
Sort of
today.
like that woman who was on the Hollywood Squares for years, and she would go, you know who I'm talking about?
No. Don't you love it when I do that to you and just sort of leave you hanging there?
I don't know her name either. But she was like one of the regulars on the Hollywood Squares.
I didn't watch it.
I don't know. If Tom DeLac were here, our overnight producer, he knows all that.
He would know all of that stuff. He's like the aficionado of stuff.
It is time to take a look at what our state bureaus have been up to overnight, and we start in Florida. A Kissimmee, Florida woman is in the hospital in stable condition after being hit by a pickup truck in the living room of her mother's apartment yesterday. 22-year-old Tansy Wilcox was hit in the leg after the truck crashed through an exterior and an interior wall. The injury required surgery. No charges will be filed against 82-year-old driver John Duncan. This is the second time a vehicle has crashed into that apartment building, which may show that it's just in a dangerous spot. Maybe it's near a curve. I don't know, but it's the second time that's happened there.
I tell you, you would think that you would be pretty safe on your mother's couch from traffic accidents.
Yes.
Yes, but goes to show.
Be careful.
Be careful. Well, I don't know how careful you can be.
You have to be careful all the time.
I guess. Look both ways before you cross the living room.
Yeah.
In Nevada, some black leaders in Las Vegas are urging political candidates not to seek the traditional endorsement of the Police Protective Association. Letters to candidates indicate that some in the black community consider the PPA to be a racist organization now. All this started after the PPA official made a racial slur in front of a class of police recruits. He was reprimanded by the sheriff, but some African-American leaders wanted him fired.
It's 27 past the hour. In Texas, a San Antonio landmark now getting a facelift. Developers, yesterday unveiled plans to renovate the Sunset Depot train station. It was built back in 1902. Plans are calling for entertainment and restaurant complexes around the station. It's downtown, just east of the Alamo Dome. The station will be turned into a dance hall. Developer Ken Wolf says construction begins in the summer on a 400-room hotel complex between the station and the dome. So that's going to be sort of a commercial mecca there.
Oh, I bet it's going to be big stuff.
Yes.
In Arizona, a Phoenix judge is weighing the case of a Scottsdale, Arizona man. He wants to use a flagpole, and his homeowners association, which says that it's against the rules. They're having the big fight. Doc Wasson says that he needs the flagpole to honor the memories of his father and brother. On certain days, he wants to fly the flag, which covered his brother's casket, at half-staff. Well, the lawyer of the Homeowners Association says that he can install a small flagpole on the outside wall of his own house. And he says he has the right to use the full-size flagpole that's on the property.
It's the old fight with the neighborhood association,
Oh, boy.
In New Jersey, it is more expensive than in any other state to own car insurance. New Jersey drivers paid an average of $1,100 a car in '96. Compare that to nearby Delaware. The average is $800. Pennsylvania, under $700. To find the cheapest rates in the nation for auto insurance, you got to go to North Dakota, where the average is $400.
That's not bad.
Very good.
This is the UPI Morning News from United Press International.
Here's the latest from the UPI Financial Desk. An international consortium of more than 30 telecommunications carriers has signed a construction and maintenance agreement to build a new fiber-optic undersea cable system. American households reportedly have more of their assets invested in the stock market than at any time in the past 50 years. The New York Times reports an analysis of Federal Reserve data reveals stock investments made up 28% of American household wealth at the end of September. President Clinton has honored Levi Strauss and IBM with the first annual Ron Brown Award for Corporate Leadership. The award recognizes companies that have demonstrated a sustained and passionate commitment to employee and community relations. On Wall Street, the Dow Jones Industrial Average rose nearly 19 points to another new high of 8,314.55 in heavy trading. I'm Ed Silk.
A UPI News update. There are both diplomatic and military efforts in the works to end the standoff with Iraq over UN weapons inspections. On the diplomatic end of things, Defense Secretary Cohen is meeting today with Russian officials in Moscow. America's UN Ambassador Bill Richardson is also in the Far East. At the United Nations, the permanent members of the UN Security Council have also met. Meanwhile, at the White House, there is continued talk of a military strike and discussion of pressure from Capitol Hill to include the ousting of Saddam Hussein as part of any attack plan. The Washington Post is reporting evidence of a 1995 agreement by Russia to sell sophisticated fermentation equipment to Iraq was uncovered last fall by UN inspectors. The inspectors were uncertain whether Iraq actually received the equipment, which could be used to make biological weapons. A New York Times report indicates members of the Secret Service have allegedly been subpoenaed by prosecutors investigating the reputed sexual relationship between President Clinton and former White House intern Monica Lewinsky. From the UPI News Center in Washington, I'm Diane Kepley.
29 ahead of the hour on the UPI Morning News with stuff about snowboarding and getting your medal back and something about marijuana and I don't know what.
Sounds very complicated to me.
I'm sure John Megley will sort it out for us here.
Thanks a lot. I love you too, Dimitri.
Yeah, go John.
I don't want to sort out that marijuana stuff. But I will tell you that there's a bronze hue over the U.S. Winter Olympic Village in Nagano today instead of gold, as we told you about yesterday when the skiers did really well.
Mm-hmm.
Shannon Dunn grabbed third in the women's snowboard. She's elated to win medal number 1 for her.
I'm just so happy. It's like raining, but I feel like I'm above the clouds, and I just had the time of my life. It was so much fun. That's what I came here to do, and one little mistake does not make me any less happier. I'm stoked.
Now, Ross Powers bagged the bronze in the men's snowboard. He called it a dream come true and talked about his last run.
I just dropped in and gave it a good shot, just tried to land all my tricks, and it went pretty smooth and pretty consistent.
Also today, snowboarder Ross Rebelliati of Canada has his gold medal back. Now, it was stripped initially because he flunked a dope test. Reporter Ed Hula explains why the International Olympic Committee was overruled by another 3-judge panel.
The reason it was overturned is more, it seems, on legal technicalities. The IOC, the court ruled, really didn't have a legal basis, any kind of legal agreement with the International Ski Federation that would allow a medal to be taken away for the use of marijuana.
And moving on to basketball, NBA style, the Bulls outlasted the Hornets 92-90 at the Hive. Michael scored 29 points, including a spectacular reverse layup in the last minute. He and others watched as Charlotte's Vernon Maxwell had a desperation heave at the buzzer, miss the mark.
It didn't go in, so I mean, that was the easy feel, I guess. He certainly had a look, and he's been known to make shots like that, and but I'm glad it missed.
Other winners: Indiana, the Lakers, Washington, Detroit, Orlando, Philadelphia, and Seattle. Guard Isaiah Ryder of the Trailblazers will sit out tonight's game in Phoenix. He was suspended for walking out of the Rose Garden before the end of Tuesday night's W over the Lakers. The lone-ranked college basketball team to lose last night, number 6 UConn. Sophomore center Lauren Woods of Wake Forest rejoined the Demon Deacons last night, but Wake lost to Georgia Tech 77-76 in an ACC matchup. Woods missed 7 games after Coach Dave Odom said the player was putting too much pressure on himself, and Odom suggested that he take time away from the sport. Casey Martin has permission to use a cart while playing golf. He has a bad right leg. It makes it difficult and dangerous to walk the length of a golf course while competing. He's now on the Nike Tour. You can book him on the PGA Tour soon. Paul Stankowski will begin defense of his championship today at the Hawaiian Open. Gatorade Twin 125-mile qualifying races are on the docket today in Daytona. It's all part of those festivities leading up to the Daytona 500 on Sunday. Quarterback Troy Aikman of the Cowboys reworked his contract to give the team more wiggle room under the salary cap. Defensive tackle Sean Gilbert of the Redskins, who sat out the entire 97 season in a contract spat, has been designated the team's franchise player for the second year in a row. Have a good one. John Megley, UPI Sports.
Thank you, John. This is the UPI Morning News.
We're 25 minutes away from the hour. This is the UPI Morning News on a Thursday. I'm Dimitri Sotis with Shirley Smith. Do you resent the salary your supervisor makes, or do you think the CEO in your company is making too much? A lot of people do, and UPI's Dennis Daly talks with Ira Kay of a national group that's been monitoring executive pay. What she says might surprise you. She says usually the more the CEO makes, the more you make.
Ira, thanks for taking the time to join us this morning. I want to say straight away here to put myself in perspective in that I have never been in management, never had to pay a light bill, never had to meet a payroll, so the way I look at CEOs quite often is from a different perspective than you do. But I want to find out if I can, based upon what you have found there at your company, as to whether or not some of the almost scary-sounding salaries we hear CEOs get are justified. I take it from your research that even though some of us on the low end of the pay scale might resent what CEOs make, there is a correlation between their salaries and how well their companies do.
Yes, the Watson-Wyatt studies have shown that while chief executive officers or CEOs are well paid by regular people's standards, there's no doubt about that, that while they're paid well, it seems that the shareholders for whom those chief executive officers are working also do extremely well. And the important issue is that the chief executive officer pay is really not mostly in the form of salary. In fact, their salaries, their fixed compensation, is really only 20 or 25% of their total compensation. Most of their compensation comes in the form of bonuses and stock options, which they may or may not receive. Now, since the stock market has done so well over the last 6 or 7 or 8 years, those stock options have also done extremely well. But we like to think, and I think our studies prove, that at least one of the reasons that the stock market has done so well for all Americans through their mutual funds and through their retirement packages and through their 401ks, that one of the reasons the stock market has done so well is in fact because the CEOs of the companies are highly motivated to keep their stock prices high and rising.
Ira, are there a lot of people like myself who really view Wall Street as a gray area and almost resent when it goes up? Maybe I get that from my father, but I just find myself, and I don't want to dwell on this too much, not really getting excited about Wall Street going up.
I would say that is a fairly, that's a minority opinion, I would say.
So more and more people are involved in some aspect of Wall Street than I realize.
That's right. I think the data shows that 50 to 60% of the shares of all the American companies are in fact owned by, the general households in the United States. And they own them either directly through their brokerage accounts, but more likely they own it indirectly through mutual funds and through their retirement plans, their defined benefit pension plans, and through their 401ks. And we have found that, while it is true that the chief executive officers are paid well, that by driving up the stock prices, then pensions are doing better, 401ks are doing better, and people are just earning excellent returns through their mutual funds.
Is it a PR problem then that there are people such as myself who really don't understand why it's necessary for these guys to make so much money to keep the system working?
Well, it might be a PR problem. I think it's difficult. The chief executive officers themselves can't really defend themselves, and I think it would. But I think the key issue is, would the stock market have done as well if they were paid less? And that is really an impossible question to answer per se. But the one thing that we do know is that the one country, and I talk about this in my book, which is called CEO Pay and Shareholder Value, I talk about a comparison of U.S. and Japanese compensation packages. And Japan pays its chief executive officers completely differently from the way the United States pays its chief executive officers. It pays them fixed salaries, very little bonuses, and no stock, which is, and the amounts are truly much less than chief executive officers are paid in the U.S. And the Japanese stock market and the Japanese economy has done very poorly. So I take that to be as indirect evidence that, in fact, it seems like stock options and these other incentives are, in fact, working to increase the stock prices.
So it isn't really fair to look at the few really extremes here, and I'll use Michael Eisner as an example, in order to view what CEO salaries are, at least in this country. I mean, they're more generous than Japan, but we tend to look at those guys on the high end and think everybody's making out like a bandit.
Well, that's true, and in fact, Michael Eisner, I think, in some of his best years, has made 100 times what the average is for the chief executive officers. But even the average is paid a couple of $1 million, so they're paid very well.
Mm-hmm.
But Michael Eisner, to take an example of a company that I don't really know the specifics about, except what I read in the newspapers, but his company's value in the marketplace has basically increased from $3 or $4 billion when he took over in the early 80s to $45 or $50 billion now.
So the bottom line is, even if you are on the low end of the pay scale, before you go resenting some of these guys, realize that it is their expertise that makes the system work.
Yes, we certainly think that it is a very, very challenging job, and it is a job that sets the pricing strategy and the acquisition strategy and the layoff strategy, and they ultimately have to be held accountable for the successes and the failures of those jobs.
Ira, you bring an interesting perspective to this, and I thank you for taking the time to join us this morning.
Nice talking to you.
And I'm Dennis Daly for the UPI Morning News.
Dennis was speaking with Ira Kay, who works with a national group that monitors executive pay. President Clinton and Vice President Gore expected on Capitol Hill a bit later this morning to discuss their legislative agenda with congressional Democrats. The session will give the president another opportunity to urge the lawmakers not to spend any of the coming budget surpluses on anything, including tax cuts, until a bipartisan deal is reached to save the Social Security system. Coming up on 18 minutes before the hour on the UPI Morning News.
18 minutes away from the hour at this point.
Our personal attitude about the people who make the big money. I'm Dennis Daly with Consumer Focus. The next time you go down to buy a toaster or a gallon of milk or visit Disneyland, you may wonder just how much the head of the company that made those products or provide that service is making. Well, we all know that Michael Eisner seems to make a ton of money as head of Disney, and it's easy to resent the big salaries made by CEOs. But a new survey that has been done by a company called Watson Wyatt Worldwide shows the more that CEOs make, the better their companies perform, and the more money the stockholders make. And it's not just by a small margin. Watson Wyatt says there is a clear trend that when the head of a company makes big bucks, the company seems to do well. Not always, but often. Maybe the key then is to buy shares of stock in that company. Dennis Daly, Los Angeles.
L.A. mayor to marry outside his faith. I'm Larry Webb with People in the News. This Saturday, Los Angeles Mayor Richard Riordan will marry his longtime companion, Nancy Daly. Catholic Cardinal Roger Mahoney says the couple's decision to have a civil ceremony rather than have a church wedding saddens him because it compromises their ability to participate fully in the church's sacramental life. Las Vegas oddsmaker Lenny Del Genio has installed Titanic and L.A. Confidential as the co-favorites to win this year's Oscar for Best Picture. He rates Peter Fonda and Robert Duvall as co-favorites to win the Best Actor award, and Julie Christie and Helena Bonham Carter as co-favorites to win for Best Actress. Actor Alan Alda has filed suit against Fox over the studio's decision to put the long-running TV hit MASH on its FX cable network. The cable network Romance Classics has named Tonight Show host Jay Leno and his wife Mavis its most romantic couple of 1998. That's People in the News. I'm Larry Webb.
are some of this morning's news stories from the UPI News Center. There are both diplomatic and military efforts in the works to end the standoff with Iraq over the UN weapons inspections. On the diplomatic end of things, the defense secretary is meeting with the Russian officials in Moscow, and America's UN ambassador is in the Far East. At the United Nations, the permanent members of the UN Security Council have also met. At the White House, there is continued talk of a military strike and discussion of pressure from Capitol Hill to include the ousting of Saddam Hussein as part of any attack plan. The Washington Post is reporting evidence of a 1995 agreement by Russia to sell sophisticated fermentation equipment to Iraq that was uncovered last fall by UN inspectors. The inspectors were uncertain whether Iraq actually received the equipment. It could have been used to make biological weapons. This is the UPI Morning News.
14 before the hour, time for news in detail on this Thursday morning. President Clinton has rejected renewed suggestions from Baghdad on terms under which UN weapons inspectors could resume their work in Iraq. Mr. Clinton says Baghdad has to permit full and free access to all suspected sites, not just a few. He repeated that he preferred a diplomatic solution. Mr. Clinton says Saddam Hussein must cooperate or face the consequences.
He must let the weapons inspectors back with full and free access to all suspect sites. If he will not act, we must be prepared to do so.
Meantime, UPI's Pi Chamberlain says that members of Congress are having some second thoughts about giving advance approval to a major bombing campaign against Iraq.
The House doesn't plan to act for at least a week on a resolution backing air raids on Iraq. Senate leaders say they might bring up such a resolution, possibly even today, but only if they were sure the vote would not reflect deep divisions about American policy. There are reservations. Senators worry about giving a blank check for a new war that could turn ugly. There's worry about civilian casualties. Some worry about giving advance approval to a campaign that might not make Saddam-led international inspectors search all of Iraq for weapons of mass destruction or the means to make them. Senate leaders had expected passing a resolution of support to be quick and easy, but it has not been. Senate Leader Lott says he doubts air raids will begin until after next week's congressional vacation. Pi Chamberlain, Capitol Hill.
It's almost 12 before the hour. A published report says members of the Secret Service have been subpoenaed by prosecutors investigating the alleged relationship between the president and Monica Lewinsky. The New York Times says the move would set up a possible conflict between independent counsel Kenneth Starr's office and the Clinton administration, which up to this point has tried to limit any testimony of aides and Secret Service agents close to the president.
The second day of testimony before the Whitewater grand jury of Kenneth Starr proved to be a little too much for Martha Lewis, mother of Monica Lewinsky. She apparently was ill. A nurse tended to her, then she left the grand jury room for the day. Marcia Lewis's lawyer is Billy Martin.
Marcia Lewis asked me to come out to share with you that she will not be making a statement today. She does promise the press that she will make a statement when she concludes her grand jury testimony. She has not done that, and she will not come out until she's concluded. She will take no questions today, and I thank you.
It's not... go ahead, Shirley.
Monica Lewinsky's mother, Marcia Lewis, apparently will be back to testify, possibly today.
It's not clear when she herself will appear before the grand jury, but Monica Lewinsky plans to leave Los Angeles today and return to Washington. Her attorney, William Ginsburg, reportedly has filed a motion that could force independent counsel Kenneth Starr to stick to an earlier deal to grant the former White House intern immunity in the investigation into allegations she had that relationship with the president.
First Lady Hillary Rodham Clinton says her husband has taken the right position in not discussing in detail any allegations that he had an affair with the former intern. Clinton denied the allegations, and the First Lady says she believes they will evaporate and slowly dissipate.
It's 11 before the hour. Under cross-examination, ex-Naval Academy midshipman Diane Zamora called her former best friend a liar for testifying that she confessed to helping kill a 16-year-old girl. Zamora says other witnesses who made similar allegations misinterpreted what she had said about her ex-fiancé killing his one-time lover.
The governor of California has added some more counties, 4 more, to the collection of disaster areas now. UPI's Dennis Daly has the list.
California Governor Pete Wilson has added 4 more California counties to the list of counties on an emergency list because of El Nino-induced storms. 27 counties were already on the list. The new additions are Sacramento, Solano, Fresno, and Amador. The declaration releases state aid for local flood-fighting efforts. The governor is also requesting federal assistance in the view of damage estimates already over $250 million. Dennis Daly, Los Angeles.
10 before the hour, golfer Casey Martin wins. He had the Professional Golfers Association on the ropes for the entire trial in Eugene, Oregon, and the judge has now ruled that Martin has won. He would be allowed to ride on a golf course when he plays in PGA events. Martin says he doesn't care about all the trial and the court and all of that. He just wants to play.
There are no guarantees I'll make it, no guarantees. All I know is I have an opportunity now, and that's all I asked for. Didn't ask for any money, didn't ask for anything other than just a chance to see if I have the talent to make it someday. And I'm grateful that I have that opportunity.
Martin has the first opportunity since the ruling when he plays in Austin in the first week of March.
A death penalty study commission in New Jersey is looking for some ways to speed up the appeal process for inmates facing capital punishment. Here's reporter Gene Dillard.
It's been 16 years since the death penalty was reinstated in New Jersey. 50 convicted killers have been sentenced to die, but no one has been executed. John Martini is one of those facing capital punishment, an inmate convicted of the murder of a businessman in 1989 who's even asked to be put to death. Marilyn Flax, wife of Martini's victim Irving Flax, says she wants him to be the first person to be put to death in New Jersey in a long time.
He deserves it, he wants it, and it should be done.
The commission plans to look at how the death penalty process can be improved to make capital punishment a reality in New Jersey. Gene Dillard, Trenton, New Jersey.
A study of students at one campus suggests an alarming number of college-aged women are infected with a virus that could cause cervical cancer. The 3-year study of more than 600 women showed 6 out of 10 of them were infected with the virus at some time during the study. This is the UPI Morning News.
Minutes away from the hour. This is the UPI Morning News, financial news. Stocks have closed lower in Tokyo with some low-priced issues sold for profit-taking. The key Nikkei index of 225 selected issues closed down 30.16 points, that's 0.18%, at 17,174.93. The broader-based Tokyo Stock Price Index was also lower.
Now we take a look at stocks from the United States.
Here's the latest from the UPI Financial Desk. Stock prices closed slightly higher amid profit-taking following Tuesday's record-setting rally. The Dow Jones Industrial Average closed above the 8,300 level for the first time, rising nearly 19 points to another new high of 8,314.55. Advances led declines by a narrow margin in heavy trading. The New York Stock Exchange Composite Index rose 0.75 point to 530.75. Standard & Poor's 500 Stock Index gained a point to 1,020.01. Among the most active stocks, Compaq Computer up 1 to 36.5. Computer Associates down 7 5/8 to 50.5, and Computer Sciences up 11 5/8 to 103 7/8. The Nasdaq Composite Index fell 0.5 point to 1,708.55. I'm Ed Silk.
Business leaders and former policymakers from both parties have called on Congress to approve funding for the International Monetary Fund. The former Federal Reserve Board Chairman Paul Volcker says that no American funding for the IMF could be bad for the economy.
We want the IMF to be responsive to our concerns, as they have been, and we think our concerns are in the general world interest. We obviously are not going to have leverage in those institutions if we're not willing to take our share of the financial support. Of course, what's ironic in the case of the IMF is it doesn't cost us anything.
That is the former Federal Reserve Board Chairman Paul Volcker.
Domino's Pizza reports recorded pre-tax profits of $61.5 million for the 1997 fiscal year. The total was up nearly 20% over 96 and was the third straight record annual profit. In 97, worldwide sales topped $3.1 billion for the first time, rising more than 11% from 1996. U.S. same-store sales were up 7%, international same-store sales up 11%.
Continental Airlines has filed for priority access for its Newark and Houston hubs for routes to Tokyo, Japan. The mainland flights will be flown with Continental's new Boeing 777 aircraft. The Newark and Houston to Tokyo routes have set to begin in November and December, respectively. Continental offers service to Europe and Latin America by way of the Houston and Newark gateways.
That's a look at financial news. Just 5 minutes away from the hour on the UPI Morning News.
Music Log, February 12th. Born on this date in Kansas City, 60s hitmaker Gene McDaniels.
I'm at the point of no return, and for me there'll be no turning back.
Gene attended the Oklahoma Conservatory of Music and formed his own band in the early 50s. He is best remembered for 3 top 10 hits in 1961 and 62.
He took 100 pounds of clay, and then he said, hey listen, Chip, Chip, you tell a little lie. Chip, Chip, you make your baby cry. Chip, Chip.
Eugene B. Gene McDaniels, part of the Music Log. I'm Larry Webb.
If I were a tower of strength, I'd walk away. I'd look in your eyes.
A few other musical milestones. It was in 1964, on this date, that the Beatles wrapped up the band's first U.S. tour with a show at Carnegie Hall. That was, of course, in New York.
In 1967, Mick Jagger, Keith Richards, and Marianne Faithfull all arrested at Richards' West Wittering, England home. They were charged with possession of marijuana. It was the first in a series of highly publicized drug arrests involving members of the Rolling Stones.
Okay, in 1968, high school dropout Jimi Hendrix was awarded an honorary diploma from Garfield High School in his hometown of Seattle.
Well, don't know what to say here. Don't know what to say.
Don't know what to say, huh?
No ticket for the chief.
There's
a controversy in Montgomery County, Maryland, just north of Washington, over the county's police chief not getting a ticket for running a red light. Don't know what to say here. Don't know what to say. It was last Thursday, and Chief Carol Merling went through a light at a busy intersection. She was hit by another car. A statement released by Merling's office says, first of all, she didn't see the light because there was a truck in front of her, and that it was at the discretion of the officers who handled the accident to decide whether to cite her. Nobody was hurt. In fact, I've met this woman a couple of times, Chief Merling, and she's a splendid woman.
Yes.
That's my own little
Who did not
person.
get a ticket.
She didn't get a ticket. I don't know if it's because she's a chief or,
I don't know. I don't know.
But here's, again, I'm not making a decision one way or the other, but if your boss, is the one who is getting pulled over, would you give your boss a ticket? That's basically what happened.
Well, it is basically what happened, but I don't know. It seems like sometimes the boss is supposed to insist that they be treated the same way.
That's true. Maybe it would have been from her part to write herself a ticket.
Yes.
Don't know what to say here.
Don't know what to say. Well, the Twinkies are back. There's some good news today. Health officials have cleared the way for a Chicago area plant that makes Hostess Twinkies and some of the other snack foods to reopen. Some 300 employees returned to work yesterday. Now, all this came after a scare about asbestos contamination. It prompted the recall of more than 1 million Hostess treats, and then they closed up the plant for a while to make sure everything was okay. Now they're back.
The city of Savannah, Georgia, was founded on this date in 1733. And late last year, the movie came out, Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil. You ever heard that? And it's also a book by John Berendt. And the funniest thing, when they were shooting some of the footage there in Savannah, one of the actors or one of the crew members asked the city managers, what are your plans for Savannah, Georgia in the next 10 years? And they said, we have no plans. They don't care about the future. It's a city that definitely looks to the past.
It's a good southern city. This is the UPI Morning News from United Press International.